Morning everybody. I'm back with the Yamaha AG100 again today. More to that in a minute. We'll be taking on a little bit more work in a second, and I'll talk about that once I'm done talking about the AG100. So I'm gonna have a look at this oil pump again. It's been running for the past, what's today, Saturday. It's been running the last 3 days, okay. I don't think there's been any dramas with it. So I've been looking at this oil pump and I've been questioning if I was measuring it right. So I've got my feeler gauge again. And as I said in the last video, if you've been watching or if you watched it, and if you haven't watched it, what are you doing? You'll remember I was having feeler gauge and I was checking the oil pump shim adjustment, see if it was all right, and Yamaha says it's got to be between 0.2 and 0.25 of a mil gap. So I'll show you what I'm talking about once again. I've sprayed a bit of anti-seize on there to keep that sort of looped up. It was a little bit dry. So basically, from what I can tell in the manual, you're meant to get your feeler gauge in there with it at idle. I've just got it turned off so you can hear me. And you've got to check the gap in that area there. I don't know how clear that's going to be on the camera. And basically they say that it needs to have, as I said, between 0.2 and 0.25 of a mil. And with it at idle, that plunger goes in and out. So that there, so this thing here at the end will go in and out. And I guess that's how it gets the oil through, or allows oil through. So it needs to have that clearance in there for the correct amount of oil, I suppose, at idle. And I thought it didn't have enough, but then because the manual doesn't explain it clearly, I thought it meant you need to have that gap with it there when the plunger's all the way in. So there's a small gap between that and that where the cable runs, what actually stops the plunger going in. And then I was sort of thinking about it, and I thought maybe they mean it needs to have that amount of clearance when the plunger's fully extended out, like so it's pushing out, and then before it comes back in, it needs to have that clearance there, and that's how much, how much it's like going out, I guess. That probably doesn't make any sense, but yeah, and if that's the case, then it has got enough clearance. It's on teetering on the edge of almost having too much. But it seems to have enough, so I'm hesitant to try and shim it now because I'm not sure if I put a smaller shim in there and make it so that there's no clearance, I think it won't get any oil at all at idle. Yeah, so I might leave it as it is. So I've achieved nothing really by looking at it today other than just confirming a couple of theories, or not confirming, but coming up with a couple of theories. Yeah, what I'll do is I'll leave it, give it a good run. It seems to be running alright. Keep trying to burn all that oil out of the muffler. And yeah, I spoke to one of my mates at work and about how the oil in the spark plug, and he said, yeah, that was like, that for a 2-stroke, they only get 25 hours of life out of a spark plug, which I thought was a bit low, but whatever. And because of all the oil in it, it wouldn't be helping that was in there. So yeah, I don't know. If anybody has any ideas or suggestions, or they know something about this, if you've got an ag bike or if you used to work on them or whatever, leave a comment, let me know. Yeah, I'd be pretty interested to know whether I'm thinking about this pump in the right way, if I've got it completely wrong or what. But we'll leave the Yamaha as it is. I might take it for a ride and just burn off a bit more oil and see what I think after. And I'll come back and then we'll talk about something else, the next project we're going to do that is motorbike related. Before I finish up, I thought I'd just show the plunger working with the engine running, just so I can sort of explain what the hell I'm even talking about. So I'll show you the plunger and I'll show you with the feeler gauge in it as well. So as you can see, the plunger goes in and out. Don't know how well you can see it, and I put my feeler gauge in there. When it opens up, it's not got that much it's got more clearance there. If I put it down the bottom, it's a bit tighter. So when it opens up, So when it opens up, I think is when you're actually meant to be checking it. There at the moment, I've got a feeler gauge, and that's 0.3 of a mil, and that's with it sort of tight. So that's where it needs to be to take all the clearance out. So I think it's got roughly and I've got to do my maths here. I think there's roughly 0.05 of a mil more clearance than there should be. So I don't know if that's enough to make it too smoky or not. Yeah, so I'm not sure if that's worth shimming or not. So I'll leave it open. If anybody knows out there if that's too much, if that 0.05 of a mil is too much clearance in that oil pump and I should shim that out, let me know in the comments, please. But yeah, we'll leave that one there for the time being. Rightio, as you would have just seen then, just come past an old Puff and Billy here. Alright, so we don't really see too much of this on the channel. This is the farm quad bike. It's a Polaris Sportsman 300, 4-wheel drive, all the rest of it. It's pretty good when it's running alright, but basically what happened is I think it had very low oil at one point and it got ran without any oil. And I'm pretty sure it buggered all the rings and everything. And now this thing takes, you need to fill up the oil every day so you can burn it and then run the engine with it. So it blows a shitload of smoke. It has got bugger all power, just runs like trash. So this thing is getting a full engine rebuild. So yeah, this will be the next project, getting this thing sorted. We want to get this one sorted. The two-wheel is fine riding around at the farm, but when it's like really wet or really rough ground, it's sort of hard on just having two wheels. So this is where the quad bike comes into its own. So we really need to get this thing up and running. It's been running like this for about a year now. Yeah, we want to get this thing sorted so that Mum can go check her cows and whatnot, and the sheep, and yeah, have something that's actually reliable. And you pretty much got to clean the spark plug every single time you use it because it puts so much oil into the cylinder, it just carbons up everything. So that's what we're going to be doing. So we're going to start ripping this thing apart, get all the covers off, and sort, as I said before, I'm a motorbike person, so this will be another challenge for me, but at least it's 4-stroke, so got some idea what I'm doing, but we'll see what it's like to get this whole thing out of the frame, and we'll have to get it up on the bench and we'll pull it apart, and hopefully we can, yeah, just get away with, you know, piston maybe, and we'll see. I don't know whether they have a sleeve or not if you've got to buy a whole new cylinder, but no doubt that's going to have to be replaced. And hopefully we haven't got any damage to like valves or the head or anything, but yeah, we'll get to that hurdle when we get to it. So we'll start pulling this apart, I suppose. Rightio, so as you would have seen, I just ripped all the covers off that I need to. I didn't pull that front one off. It doesn't really need to come off, and it's a bit of dicking around to do so. Yeah, I just had to, undid all the clips just so I could get that front cover loose, because I need to be able to pull off the big breather pipes that go to the belt drive, I think, and another part of the engine, or like the engine breather, I guess it is. So just looking at it as it sits now, there's probably a little bit more work than I was anticipating. It's not as simple as just pull the covers off and you can take the engine out. So what needs to happen is, well, I only really need to work on that. It's all your gearbox and the rear drive, but we've got to undo all the suspension and everything from it, and undo the mounts on the bottom of the engine and slide it all like out from the frame, because you can't lift it out because the frame's welded there, and yeah, it'd be pretty difficult. So at the moment, all that's really left to do from the engine really is just the wiring and hoses, and then undo all the suspension stuff up here, pull that all out of the way, and the wheels will have to roll back too. We'll either take them apart with that still attached and roll it off, or we'll just disassemble the whole thing. But I was looking at it there as well. There's a little bit more work that needs to be done. Doesn't matter because I've got to pull it apart, but up in there, there's a lot of play in these bushes. They're pretty worn out and pretty dirty too. I can't get them to move for you there, but I'll rock them. Let's see how much movement there is. Yeah, that's a good shot of it. You can see how much movement there is in that upper control arm bush. That's fine. Well, I've got to pull it apart anyway. So that those bushes can be replaced. I think there's 4 in total. We'll replace all of them. Well, I can try and convince Mum to replace all of them, which we should do because they're absolutely rooted. And realistically, the rear drive shafts as well, they need to be done as well. Really, as you've seen, those boots are torn, so it's probably full of crap. I don't know how long they've been torn for, but they realistically they need to be done. So I'll try and convince Mum that we should do that too. Yeah, so this is going to be an expensive build, I think. I'm hoping that once I get this engine and the gearbox and everything out, because it's a belt driven, I'm pretty sure me and Dad were talking about just then, it's belt driven hydrostatic gearbox, so I think it's just got a big belt on the other side there. I'm hoping I don't need to pull any of that apart. If I do, what shouldn't be a big drama, I don't think. Really, all I want to be able to do is just work on the cylinder and the head. I don't really want to have to pull the whole piston out from the bottom end, because it means I've got to pull the whole engine apart. I really only want to replace what I have to replace. So if I can get that cylinder apart and the head apart, check it all, cylinder's probably going to be knackered. We know it needs a new piston. We know it needs new rings. Check the head, make sure everything's going to be all sweet, and just get all that apart. And if I can just work on that top section without having to pull the bottom half of the engine apart, it'll save a bit of time and a bit of money as well, which is sort of the aim. Yeah, so as I was saying, basically, yeah, if I can just get that top half of the engine right, all the combustion side of it, I'm hoping that's all I really have to do. I'm hoping nothing else is too flogged out. So basically with this rebuild, I want to try and save as much money as possible. I don't want to get too deep into the engine and be pulling it apart for the sake of just checking, you know, bottom end bearings and bloody gears and whatnot inside the engine. We want to save money on this. We don't want to waste a heap of money. So if I can just replace what needs to be replaced and check what I need to check, mainly in the top half, just in the cylinder, the combustion side of it, that's what we're aiming for. It's just a quad bike, so we don't want to spend a fortune on it because it is only still a motorbike, really. We did sort of discuss the idea of, would it be worth getting just another one for what the money you'd pay for a second-hand quad bike in Australia, because you can't buy a new one. I'll get to that in a sec. For what you'd pay for a second-hand one, you'd probably spend on the rebuild, and it probably would be a little bit cheaper rebuilding this than trying to find a half-decent quad bike instead of rebuilding this. And that brings me to the other point, that we can't buy a brand new one because Australia has such tight regulations on the safety side of it. Like, they all need to have a roll bar on them now. They got to be all this and that, because people hoon around on them and get themselves hurt or injured and killed and whatever. Which, you know, accidents happen and that sort of thing, but I think a lot of the time it comes down to people aren't riding them the way they should be. So manufacturers won't sell them in it, well, they won't export them to Australia now because they have to have all the extra safety jargon on it, and that in turn costs them more money to make them, and so on. So basically they've just said to Australia, well, stuff you, Jack, we don't need you because you're such a small proportion of the market, we won't sell them to you. So you can't buy quad bikes in Australia, brand new ones in Australia anymore. I don't know, there was like a sort of grace period where you could sell all the ones that were here, and any that had been ordered you could sell also, but I think that time's run out. So I'm pretty sure there's no manufacturers are selling them in Australia at the moment, and I don't think there will be. You can buy them side-by-side things like the KTM, Polaris, and like the Can-Am things that you like. They look like a little dune buggy type arrangement. You can buy those, but they're, I don't know how much. They look like they're a bit more of a recreational type thing. I know you can get like the more tame ones for like agricultural stuff, but it's sort of a bit annoying because you're in the cab, and as point mum made about it was you can't stand up and get a good look around what's going on. You're sitting down and you're lower, so it's annoying that you can't buy them anymore. I understand why the government has said what they've like, that they want to make them safer and all that sort of stuff, and it's a pain in the ass that like the companies who make them just said no, we're not going to do that. It is what it is. So that's how we come to this point of rebuilding this one. But we'll get it done, and hopefully she'll be a good runner. So yeah, we'll leave this video where it is. I'm gonna just pull some wiring and a few hoses off the engine, and just sort of get it ready for pulling suspension bits off and undoing the mounts. Then I'm gonna go give Dad a hand to feed up and whatnot, and we'll come back tomorrow, and then me and Dad will work on this together, and we'll try and just get it done tomorrow. Aim on getting the engine out, and then we may have a sneak in the we'll pop the head off, maybe have a look at the timing, see how it all times up with the chain, how that all works. I need to do a little bit of research myself to find out how it all works. I'm sort of blabbing on now. I'll shut up in a minute. So me and Dad will try and smash this out tomorrow, get it all out, have a quick look at it, and then I'll make some phone calls, look some parts up, and find out what needs to be done, and then we'll do it. So we'll end this video here. As usual, thanks for watching, everybody. All right.